In this lesson, we'll learn how to create interesting textures using dithering. Alright, so in the previous lesson, we learned how to create tileable brick patterns, and I've gone ahead and replicated a few of those patterns around our building here. You can see we've got a sort of a mortar-colored brick pattern on this side, and then we've got a lighter brick pattern on the more shadowed side of the building. Now, I want to go ahead and begin using some dithering to create interesting textures. There's a lot of opportunities with this building to create some interesting textures, whether it be here in the parking lot, creating sort of distressed concrete, maybe stains on the concrete, whether it be here on the sidewalk, creating kind of a texture that maybe is a shadow along the top edge of this sidewalk right here, or it could be on this roof over here. Now, I've already started adding a little bit of dithering here along this sidewalk to create a little bit of dimension. We've added a little bit of spontaneous highlighting around sort of the natural grooves in the sidewalk. We've also added just a little bit of sporadic dithering here just to create a little bit of texture. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would go about creating sort of a texture for this parking lot first. So you can see here that we've come in with some parking lot lines here and even torn up the corners just a little bit. So I'm thinking that maybe this parking lot is one that has seen better days. It's maybe an older parking lot. So I've gone ahead and picked out a few colors down here, and the first thing I'd probably do is pick one that's just a little bit darker than this color. And I'd probably come in here, I'd increase the size of my pencil just a little bit, and I'd just quickly sketch in some stained areas here that we're going to end up using as kind of the darker areas. Now I am working on this colors layer. I tell you what, let me just undo that really quick here. I've got a texture layer here. When I'm creating textures using dithering, I do like to do that on a separate layer initially than my color layer. That way that if I go over anything that I've colored on my color layer, I can always erase that away and it's not damaging the original colors. So I'm going to go ahead and select this texture layer, and let's go in and again just draw in some really rough stain shapes here. Now, I may shrink my brush back down and do a little bit of fine detail as far as these stains go, so it's not quite so blob-like. Looks a little more natural. Now, this is a part of this process that is a little more loose. Now, in my own experience, I feel like a lot of the steps leading up to this are a lot more rigid, a lot more mechanical. But when you're dealing with textures, this is a part of the process that really you can use a lot of free-form lines, a lot of freehand shapes, things that aren't necessarily using geometry as a base. So if we're going to put this stain right here, I may come in here and darken this up just a little bit where this crack is, just so it looks like this stain maybe falls into that crack some. So let's come over here and make a stain right here. Now, you think about big semis pulling into this this loading dock. Maybe they've leaked fluids on top of the concrete over years and years and years. So think about that. Think about creating just different stains like that using dithering. So I've come in here and I've drawn in a few basic stain shapes. Let's put a little one right here maybe. Sort of like that. And those are starting to look pretty nice. Now, what I want to do is soften those up a bit. Now, keep in mind that dithering is really good for creating gradiated colors, mimicking a gradient. So what I would probably do here is I'd come in and let's just go ahead and zoom in nice and close so where we can see our pixel grid. And I want to initially create just sort of a nice every other pixel pattern here using this color. Something we can border up to the edges of these larger shapes that we've drawn, and we can actually take that and basically use it to taper these stains off just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that down. We've got a nice pattern there. Let's go ahead and copy that over a couple more times just so we get a nice good size pattern, and we can lasso up different sections of it here. So let me go ahead and grab that entire pattern here, and let's move that off to the side. Let's move that down here. We could even maybe create one more section of it here. There we go. This is going to give us a lot of really nice pixels to work with. So we can just grab our lasso tool, we can come in here and we can lasso up a grouping of these and then make a copy of that and drag it back up here into our texture layer. And we can just kind of layer that on top of our stains that we've already drawn here. And you can kind of see what the effect of this is having. I may come in and just reposition that to where it's kind of pleasing to the eye. But if we want to flip it horizontal, we can always do that. Maybe come in here like so. Make another copy of it for over here. Let's flip that horizontal again, and and drop that in sort of like that. We can always come in here and erase away some of these pixels if we need to. And one thing you want to be careful about in tiling these is when you're copying this pixel pattern, you want to make sure when it overlaps one you've already dropped in, it's overlapping directly on top of the pixels. It's not creating 2 pixel bricks. So that's going to actually create more value and draw the eye, creating more of a solid fill in that area. So we've gone ahead and done that a little bit around this stain. Let's go ahead and deselect that, and we'll come down here and we'll lasso another shape here, and we'll bring that up for our other stains. Let's go ahead and flip that horizontal here. Actually flip it vertical, and we'll come in and layer that in, just like so. We'll bring in another one here and flip that horizontal. And I tell you what, I'm going to put it in right about like so. We can always come over here and drop one more of these in, and then erase away some of these extra pixels over here on the other side that we're not going to need. And I think that's starting to look pretty good. So you can see here how that's actually softening up these darker stains quite a bit. Now we can always come in here with our same color and we can fill in some of these pixels. So we can create maybe some little plus symbols, sort of like that, that's going to actually further blend these two values that are created by these pixels, so it's not such a harsh transition between this solid fill here and this sparse pattern right here. We can also come in here, let me come in and add a couple more of these little plus signs. Alright, now we can also come in here and use the actual color for the pavement itself, and come in here and maybe add a few more pixels just like so, just to kind of soften the edge up. Maybe we come in a little bit further than that. So this is all about creating just kind of a spontaneous pattern here. We're not wanting to have a whole lot of regularity to this pattern. I think this is one that, you know, with this kind of texture, it's going to have certain areas that are lighter and certain areas that are darker here in the pattern. Now, keep in mind, we're only using 2 colors here to create this. So if we were wanting to even deepen this, the values a little bit further, we could always come over here and grab just a little darker color here. And maybe we want to create, maybe this isn't actually a stain. Maybe this is actually a worn part here in the concrete. I'm not sure if you've seen many sections of concrete that have aged quite a bit, but a lot of times the top layer will crack and chip away. So maybe there's actually a little bit of a shadow here along this edge in areas. Sort of like that. Again, we're not doing this with a whole lot of regularity. You can see here that that adds a lot of depth to that stain right there. Maybe we come over here and do that for these other stains as well. Now I may come in here and just go ahead and darken that line up that we had for this line right here, so it appears that this stain is creeping down into that crevice a little bit, just like so. This part is, again, like I said, it's really up to you how you do this. Yours is probably not going to look exactly like mine, and the more time you spend doing this dithering to create textures, the better. I think that there's a lot of opportunities to really create a lot of texture here. You think about the parking lot. We think about here, we can do this on the sidewalk here in front of the bay doors. We can also do it on this roof right here to maybe create some shadowed areas here in the corners of the roof. And you can also even come in on your brick patterns and think about the bricks itself. Very rarely are you going to see every brick on one side of a wall the same color. Maybe there's some darker bricks here, maybe a few lighter bricks scattered about, just creating asymmetry and some irregularities here. Maybe some of the bricks are chipped away on some of these edges of the building. Maybe you could fill in a shadowed area where maybe a brick has been knocked out or in a couple of areas. So a lot of areas to really create distress here using dithering. Tell you what, really quickly, I'll come in here and let's do one panel of this sidewalk right here. So I'm going to come in here and just sort of fill in this area just like so. Now you may notice that I've also created a shadows layer here. And let me just show you that really quick. I've got this master shadow layer, and if we hide our color layer, you're going to be able to see that a little more clearly. Let me hide the bricks and a few of these other layers. There, you can see the shadow layer, and what I've done, I've essentially drawn in the shapes of the shadows using that shadow layer. So at this point, you're going to think about shadows, where those are going to fall, where the cast shadows of elements are going to be, how the building would cast a shadow. So you're really zeroing in on that light source that we determined earlier. You're really allowing that to hit these objects that we've drawn and let them cast shadows in your composition. So we've got that there. Let's go ahead and shrink down to like a 1 pixel pencil here, and we'll come in and add a few out here, just like so. Just sort of, this is almost like stippling if you've ever done that with traditional art at this point. I'm just kind of really adding these very spontaneously, not really paying attention to much regularity here. And come in here and grab the same color here, and maybe we get a little bit of that action going here on the inside of the stain as well. Now this may not look really great zoomed in close like this, but when we zoom out on that, it's going to have a nice feel to it, add some really nice texture to that sidewalk. Alright, so like I said, there's a lot of other opportunities here to create texture, maybe on the roofs, maybe even in the windows, different areas like that, the water towers. So I'm probably not going to go ahead and take this image to completion because at this point, really, your end result is up to you. You can spend as many hours as you want to detailing an image, depending on the level of detail you want. Now, I have allowed for opportunities here to include a lot finer detail, just because we illustrated this at such a large size. So if you want to, feel free to go in on top of this end file and go in and create some more textures, really add a lot more personality to this building. I think that in a scene like this, maybe you would even think about adding some vehicles, maybe a couple cars in the parking lot, a truck here, maybe even open one of these doors up and have some little guys carrying boxes out. Ultimately, it's really up to you. So you can see here that creating pixel art can be a really time-consuming process, but the end result can be really rewarding. And again, it's really up to you how far you push an image. So hopefully the tips and workflows that I've shared with you throughout this course will help you in getting started creating your own pixel art.